So I actually disagree that openness is not a remedy. Openness is a remedy. I mean, one of the problems we have on internet security is secrecy.
Welcome, friends, to Episode 5 of the Wiki World Order Report, Cybersecurity for Cats on the Internet. Chances are that by now you've heard of the concept of net neutrality. It basically means that everyone connected to the internet should have equal access to all websites on the internet. Right now, we are quite dependent on the internet as a society and can currently find infinitely unique sources of information. But the big telecommunications players want to change that, just as they did with radio waves and televisions decades ago. For many years now, a handful of the biggest phone and cable companies have wanted to create premium lanes on the web and make sites pay more money to use them, with preference to their business partners, of course. Everyone else will get the slow lane. One group working on this next paradigm is named Internet 2. They said, quote, "The internet is dead" by the late 90s, and have built a super fast fiber optic network for, quote, more than 200 US universities in cooperation with 70 leading corporations, 45 government agencies, laboratories, and other institutions of higher learning, as well as over 50 international partner organizations, end quote. Many fear that when the time is right, the big corporate stakeholders will stop providing widespread access to our current internet and replace it with this much more controlled and censored system. It might only have a few thousand sites on it, and people without site licenses would be limited to space within a site, like we currently have on MySpace. They will also argue that we must give up our anonymity if we want to be safe on the internet. In the future, will you be able to rely on broadcasting your voice via universally public lanes? Will you be able to afford getting your voice heard through mainstream toll roads? We must continue to fight to maintain our net's neutrality, and we have seen recent threats like the big Google-Verizon deal. So if you like cat videos and you haven't already, please go to SaveTheInternet.com right now to sign their petition, and call your representatives in Congress and tell them to protect net neutrality. Another potential censorship threat is a bill introduced in the Senate on September 20th, Senate Bill 3804, the Combating Online Infringement and Counterfeits Act. Media outlet Broadcasting and Cable reports that, quote, "The bill would give the Justice Department more power to shut down websites that illegally stream or sell TV shows and movies. After the bill was introduced, there was an almost immediate pushback from fair use groups concerned the bill could throttle services like YouTube before they ever got started. The bill as introduced would give Justice more power to pull the plug on U.S. sites it found to be offering infringing content by suspending the domain name of the offender," end quote. So this bill is also worth investigating more, and please consider signing a petition against this Internet Blacklist bill by browsing to demandprogress.org/blacklist. Cybersecurity. Also right now in Congress, there are bills with bipartisan co-sponsors named the Protecting Cyberspace as a National Asset Act of 2010, aka PCNAA, Senate Bill 3480 and House Resolution 5548. When the original version of this bill was first introduced last spring, John D. Rockefeller IV, aka J. Rockefeller, had this to say.
When the internet was invented, everybody fell flat in their face. They were so thrilled. And the world began to do business in a different way. Now, both the President Bush's Director of National Intelligence, Mike McConnell, who I greatly respect, and President Obama's Director of National Intelligence, Admiral Blair, who I greatly respect, have labeled cybersecurity perpetrated through the internet as the #1 national hazard of attack on the homeland in West Virginia, America, or anywhere else. So, I mean, it really almost makes you ask the question, would it have been better if we never invented the internet and had to use paper and pencil or whatever? And that's a stupid thing to say, but it has genuine consequence.
There are some basic threats parroted by political leaders to justify centralizing command for cybersecurity, including claims like, threat number 1, common email spam and computer viruses are a significant problem. But I argue that these issues are inherent to our free internet, and we will continue to combat them by downloading software patches and spam filters as needed. Threat number 2, hackers, or cyber warriors, cyber spies, cyber terrorists, cyber criminals, foreign or domestic, will continue trying to hack into publicly web-accessible banking systems, and the Open Government Initiative, Gov 2.0, where we see more government forms and services going online. Furthermore, as well-known computer security and cryptography expert Bruce Schneier says, quote, "In the cryptography world, we consider open source necessary for good security. We have for decades. Public security is always more secure than proprietary security. For us, open source isn't just a business model, it's smart engineering practice. End quote. Threat number 3. Hackers might hack into our country's power grid and bring down large swaths of our access to electricity and other core infrastructure. But I argue that just as with highly sensitive military systems and top-secret information, there's no reason that these systems should be connected to the public internet if they are so vulnerable. Such systems should be on completely separate networks, should use open-source security solutions, and they should not need to infringe on the free internet. This bill, currently in Congress, amends the Homeland Security Act of 2002 and other laws to, quote, enhance the security and resiliency of the cyber and communications infrastructure of the United States, end quote. As CNET said on June 10, 2010, it will, quote, grant the president far-reaching emergency powers to seize control of or even shut down portions of the internet, end quote, during a state of emergency. On June 20th, Joseph Lieberman said this on CNN.
Cyber war is going on in some sense right now. We need the capacity for the president to say, internet service provider, we've got to disconnect the American internet from all traffic coming in from another foreign country, or we've got to put a patch on this part of it. The president will never take over, the government should never take over the internet. And listen, we've consulted, Senator Collins and I are proposing this bill, with civil liberties and privacy experts. This is a matter of national security. A cyber attack on America can do as much or more damage today by incapacitating our banks, our communications, our finance, our transportation as a conventional war attack. And the president, in catastrophic cases, not going to do it every day, not going to take it over. So I say to my friends on the internet, relax, take a look at the bill. And this is something that we need to protect our country. Right now, China, the government, can disconnect parts of its internet in the case of war. We need to have that here too.
So instead of keeping critical and, quote, vulnerable infrastructure systems off the public internet, the solution being promoted is to give the White House a kill switch for the web via the big internet service providers. This may only apply to emergency situations, but we also know very well that such situations can be easily manufactured by rogue elements of the corporate industrial complex. See episode 3 of the Wiki World Order report on false flag attacks. It is also ridiculously difficult to transparently prove the source of sophisticated cyber attacks, so today's cyber emergency situations can be easily manipulated. Surely, as internet users, we should keep educating each other to stay safe online, and to some extent, our government will always need to spend resources on cyber defenses, ideally in fully open source processes. But similar to the war on terror and, quote, defensive biological weapons research, we cannot fuel industries for yet another arms race. We do not want to design offensive cyber weapons to be used preemptively against other countries or groups. We do not want such programs in the hands of secretive organizations like the National Security Agency. We must instead use more of our resources to work towards resolving the root causes for which terrorism is a symptom. And it must be noted that there are big industries already capitalizing on these promoted threats. On May 17th, Wired's Danger Room reported that, quote, Booz Allen Hamilton, the defense contractor that's become synonymous with the idea that the U.S. is getting its ass kicked in an ongoing cyber war, has racked up more than $400 million worth of deals in the past 6 weeks to help the Defense Department fight the digital conflict, end quote. We must also ensure that the recent release of military information by WikiLeaks does not lead towards clamping down on the internet, as some executive branch narratives have hinted. I strongly recommend that all my listeners absorb the Intelligence Squared US debate from June 8th, titled, The Cyber War Threat Has Been Grossly Exaggerated. Sure, very few bills will end up passing right now, so late in this session, but on September 21st, a spokeswoman for Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid told Reuters that the draft bill of the Protecting Cyberspace as a National Asset Act is, quote, something that we hope to be able to pass before the end of the year, if we can, end quote. So whether you like online news, games, sitcoms, soap operas, sports, cat videos, or researching the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderberg Group, your free access is at risk. And remember, last year the Patriot Act was renewed under President Obama, and we are still losing the fight to restore our Constitution and our non-digital rights. So please tell your representatives in Congress to reject the Protecting Cyberspace as a National Asset Act and help defend against recent attacks on net neutrality. Tell them we should instead move any vulnerable infrastructure systems to separate secure networks based on open source security. We must constantly defend the internet because it is the single biggest threat to the corporate industrial complex. And remember,
Every time you trade cyber privacy for cybersecurity, the NSA kills a kitten video.